Tonight, the owner of a private ambulance service is pushing back at claims he wasn't living up to his contract with the province.
All these allegations are exactly what they are. They're allegations.
Refusing 911 calls and patient transports, documents reveal why the province cut its contract with Smith's Ambulance.
Come April, the skies over many Newfoundland communities will look a lot different than they do today.
My role is to help organize some of the science events and to help lead the eclipse viewing party. Our hope is that, because the eclipse is on the Monday, that the weekend before we'll have some talks, we'll have some demonstrations, some events for children, some events for adults.
We'll have a story about the total solar eclipse coming up.
A lot of the times when I pull over and kind of set this up, a lot of people might say like, oh, I'm not an artist, I don't know how to do this. And really it's not about being a quote-unquote artist, is about making a mark and making an impression on something.
Tonight on Here and Now, we'll introduce you to Andrew Testa with Grenfell Campus and his portable printing press that's making art more accessible on the West Coast.
This is CBC Here and Now.
Good evening and welcome to Here and Now. There's reaction tonight to an exclusive story Here and Now brought you on Friday. The former chief of the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary, along with an outspoken lawyer, a police reform advocate, and a city councillor, spoke last week at a national conference on police governance. It was a fiery panel discussing the need for independent police oversight. As Ariana Kelland reports, the opposition is now weighing in.
The Tory justice critic wants to know what's the holdup. Helen Conway-Ottenheimer says the province is not moving quick enough to set up a civilian-led police oversight system, one that would build trust and accountability at arm's length from the police and government.
It's not sufficient for the minister to just say we need more research. We have it. We don't need to reinvent the wheel. We don't need another report. We have it in front of us, and so let's use it.
The First Voice Working Group on Police Oversight delivered its report to government last October. The report has 26 recommendations in total, but central to that is independent oversight.
We put it directly in his hands. We were promised a response once they had reviewed the report. That was nearly a year ago now. The province has yet to take a position on how to deal with the significant problems of policing that are documented here.
And Campbell says he doesn't get it, why the culmination of 18 months worth of research isn't being acted on.
When we look across other jurisdictions, as we do in this report, it's astounding that Newfoundland and Labrador is nearly the only jurisdiction in this country that has no such mechanism of holding police accountable for their actions, but also not providing any kind of proactive governance whatsoever for police forces.
Let's even start at a minimum, start with establishing or looking at establishing a comprehensive system of civilian oversight, such as a police service board in our province. It's a major gap right now. It's recognized as a gap by even other jurisdictions in our country. So let's get moving on this.
So what should that look like?
This board should hire the chief and they should hire the deputy chiefs. Take this completely away from the province. And the board should be responsible, or the chief should be responsible and accountable to the board. The board puts the chief there, the deputy chief there, and the board can take them out of there.
So what is the province's vision for police oversight? Well, we don't know. Minister John Hogan isn't doing interviews, but in an email statement said that work is underway to determine the best way forward. Ariana Kelland, CBC News, St. John's.
And still with policing, the province has reached a tentative agreement with the Royal Newfoundland Constabulary. The 400 members of the association will be voting on that deal. The province won't reveal what's in that agreement until members have their say. In other news, the overdose death of 20-year-old Ben Olivero is having a big effect on the downtown St. John's community. The owners of a pub just steps away from where Olivero died has done something to make the whole downtown area a little safer. Niall Hickey of the Newfoundland Embassy sat down with Here and Now's Malone Mullen to share the story.
Tell me a little bit about where you got the idea to have naloxone training here. So a few weeks back, we had a pretty scary moment when a young man named Ben Olivero passed away just feet away from our door. It was very, very scary and a wake-up call for all of us in downtown, actually. So I reached out to my mother. She works with Thrive, and we got some naloxone kits brought down to us. And we also got 3 RNs from Eastern Health to come down too. And they gave us a quick training session, and they were so easy to work with, and it was very simple, 5 minutes, and it's very important to have that training.
Other bars on George Street also showed interest in this, right?
Yep, so it was an idea of mine that we should go around together. Like a familiar face, introducing people is easier to be more accepting of the training. And so we just brought them down to about 25 bars at St. John's in 2 days, and practically everyone was welcoming with their arms saying, come on in please, we want that training. The training session was incredibly easy, and I was so surprised at how easy it was. It was 5 minutes done. It's literally just cracking a vial, pulling up into the needle, making sure there's no air in the needle, and injection. And it's super, super easy. And the nurses, when they spoke about it, they mentioned that it doesn't matter how much you give them, it won't harm them, even if someone's passed out from drinking. And you might think it's an OD, if you inject them with that, it will not change anything, it will not affect them. So that thing was a relief to hear.
You know, Ben died just right there, right across the street from you guys here at the Newfoundland Embassy. Yeah. Have you seen other people struggling with addiction, or have you heard of other overdoses in the area that maybe?
Yes, we see it every day. The downtown core is full, and you know, it's all about harm reduction right now.
How does it make you feel when you're wandering around St. John's now and you have a naloxone kit and you know how to use it?
Yeah, a sense of relief, especially after Ben's passing. I got a lot of anxiety about thinking of it, and the training was so easy, and having the kits and knowing how almost every bar in downtown now is trained, it's just a huge relief. It is.
A beautiful start to the day for at least the eastern half of the province this afternoon. We do have a cold front that's moving through. That is bringing some showers that are fairly heavy at times through parts of central at the moment. Now, this is going to continue to march eastward as we head through the night tonight. If you take a look at the weather on the way, over the next 24 hours, rain will continue tonight for most of us. Thanks to that cold front, things will be a lot less humid for parts of the province as well. And then we've got lots of rain continuing as we head through tomorrow afternoon, particularly for the eastern half of the island. We're talking about the potential for 20, 30, even 40 millimeters of rain. And again, those temperatures will be a little bit cooler over the next couple of days as well. I will get into all of the details when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, tonight there's more insight into the province's decision to sever ties with Smith's ambulance service. Internal documents reveal multiple allegations and claims of a dysfunctional relationship, but owner Wade Smith believes it was all part of an effort to shut down his private ambulance company. Here Now's Heather Gillis brings us this feature report.
In March, Eastern Health asked the province to cut its contract with Smith's Ambulance. Documents CBC News obtained from the health department through access to information details some of the reasons why officials wanted that to happen. They say Smith's Ambulance failed to respond to 911 calls, refused patient transfers, and had 2 emergency medical responders working without proper authorization. Claims ambulance operator Wade Smith denies.
All these allegations are exactly what they are. They're allegations.
The documents say Smiths didn't respond to a 911 call during a February storm after police requested an ambulance. In an email, the provincial medical director, who oversees and authorizes paramedics, said that he had, quote, serious concerns after Smiths outright refused the Priority 1 emergency call. He wrote, the failure to respond to 911 calls or follow pre-established procedures for adverse weather conditions placed this patient at an unacceptable level of risk. Eastern Health issued something called a notice of non-compliance after that incident, saying Smiths initially accepted the call. They said they'd leave once the door to the garage could be opened, but then later refused to go. Smith's side of the story? He says they lost power 3 times and couldn't get their backup generator working, and that it took time to open the garage doors manually and clear away snow.
So anyway, we relayed that back to Eastern Health, and when we were back up and running and everything was cleared away, I called them and let them know we were back in service. And that time they were after calling another operator.
Smith's lawyer wrote health officials saying the company was back in service within a few minutes and that the storm and power outage were, quote, both beyond Smith's reasonable control and without fault or negligence. Smith also disputes the call was an emergency and says it was a wellness check. An investigation later found there was a 13-minute delay in response time. The crew that did respond reported roads were mostly plowed at the time and that, quote, visibility wasn't unduly compromised. But it's not just the delay. The health authority also took issue with Smith's interpretation of the right to refuse unsafe work under the Occupational Health and Safety Act.
Under the Act, any employee in this province has a right to refuse work. It doesn't make no difference if you're a first responder or not, and that's right from the Occupational Health and Safety person I was talking to.
In a November letter to government, Smith wrote, if weather conditions make it unsafe for us to respond to our area or into another service area, crews can and will refuse to respond. They will attempt, and if unsafe to proceed, they will return to base and contact management under OH&S. But the health department doesn't see it that way. It says there are limits on the right to refuse unsafe work, that crews must make every reasonable effort to respond and can call for a plow or salt truck to escort them. The documents also reveal allegations that 2 responders with Smith's ambulance did patient transport and provided patient care without proper authorization. The health department says that's a breach of contract, an unprecedented failure to uphold public safety, and a failure by Smith to uphold his obligations as an employer. But Smith says it's all a paperwork error, that his workers were qualified.
They had it. They did have a paper saying that they were done, yeah. But they never had an actual letter. And that actual letter was lost. And EMRs normally don't have direct contact. And for us, we never had them having any direct contact other than lifting the stretcher and put it in the ambulance, which would be very insignificant compared to what they're trying to portray.
Another incident alleges Smiths didn't respond to a mutual aid call in June of 2022 that happened outside its service area in another operator's jurisdiction. But Smith says they did respond.
We sent an ambulance that was just finished up a call down Portagrave, who were less than 7 minutes away from the call. So we responded to the call and transported the person to Caribou General Hospital.
Eastern Health CEO sent a letter to the health minister asking for Smith's contract to be terminated. It says the pair had a dysfunctional working relationship and that the company jeopardized public safety. A heavily redacted decision note from March reads, managing this one operator is now consuming a significant amount of resources across Eastern Health and Health and Community Services. But Smith says officials were building a fictitious case against him.
I had Department of Health and Community Service and Eastern Health working together collaboratively to try to find a way to shut Smith's ambulance down. And that kind of really hurt.
Meanwhile, Smith is taking legal action. He's suing Eastern Health and the Department of Health for his firing, asking the courts to reinstate his service. But any action through the courts could take some time, years even. Meanwhile, the provincial government is also planning to change road ambulances, integrating them down into one service. Heather Gillis, CBC News, St. John's.
Well, a 50-year-old man has died after a vehicle hit a moose on the Trans-Canada Highway near Middle Gull Pond on Saturday. A car with 4 occupants collided with a moose that was crossing the highway. The 50-year-old passenger was taken to hospital where he later died. The remaining occupants had non-life-threatening injuries. One arts professor in Corner Brook has designed a printing press on wheels. The portable art device looks and moves similar to a wheelbarrow, and it's taking art making out of the studio and into the outdoors. Here and Now's Colleen Connors has more.
This vibrant-looking thing on wheels is not a bike or a trolley. It's unexpected art. It's part of a project called Print Shop in Tow, where Andrew Testa takes his printmaking machine to areas all around the west coast of the province and encourages the public to try printmaking.
It's about getting people really excited about making, and whatever comes out of that making and showing that anyone can make.
Testa has carried his portable print shop to 6 different spots this summer, rural beaches and hiking trails, with close to 100 people drawing and then creating their own prints.
It was very cool. When we were walking it down the street, there was a tourist bus at the time, and a lot of people were kind of like eyeing what we were doing and like skirting around it and weren't really sure what to make of it.
Printmaking is often really intimidating. The presses are really big. You have really specific studio spaces for them. So there's this kind of a fear sometimes that people have when they're kind of making a print for the first time. Whereas one of the things that I want to do with this press is really encourage people to show how fun and easy it is to do.
So how does it work? Well, to make a monoprint, first the artist draws a picture on this plexi material with water-soluble crayons. Then Testa places a damp sheet of cotton rag paper over top. He then uses the wheel to press the inked surface onto the paper, squishing them together to create a print.
It's just something that's really exciting to kind of continue to push the boundaries of what that is and how it works, and being able to put a press on a hiking trailer to really kind of take it anywhere that I want to go.
Testa says he still has a lot of places he wants it to go, and plans on collaborating with other artists to create and make prints.
Testa says in September of 2024, many of the pieces created on this printmaking machine will be on display for everyone to see at a local gallery. Colleen Connors, CBC News, Corner Brook.
Well, it's many months away, but eclipse watchers are getting excited for April 2024. That's when a total solar eclipse will cast its shadow over this province. It's the first since 1970. Here Now's Troy Turner has this story.
It hasn't happened in 53 years, so it's no surprise people are getting excited about this natural phenomenon.
Especially in Newfoundland, you'll see the shadow coming at you from the western horizon. You'll see the beautiful diamond ring on the edge of the sun. You'll see the corona just burst into view. You'll see stars and planets come out. Everyone around you is cheering and screaming and going crazy, and it is absolutely a stunning experience.
A total solar eclipse occurs when the dark silhouette of the moon completely obscures the bright light of the sun. While many regions will experience a partial eclipse, towns like Gander are in what's called the path of totality.
St. John's is not in the path, so people have to travel. St. John, New Brunswick is not in the path. People have to travel. Ottawa, Toronto, Quebec City are not in the path. People will have to travel. And so a lot of these communities that aren't used to getting thousands of people could very easily get thousands of people on Eclipse Day.
It's hard to say if there will be thousands of people here, but the town of Gander is hoping to plan a celebration around April 8th, the day of the eclipse.
It's fairly preliminary in discussion, but I think it'll be a good opportunity for people in this province to learn about the thing. You know, there's one thing to have a watch party kind of thing and view it, but also to learn a lot about the science around it and that kind of stuff too.
There are no details yet on what a celebration could look like, but the town will need to budget for it.
We could combine those things and you know, have an event here where people can see something they wouldn't otherwise get to see very often, and build something around that, you know, that would be educational and interesting and celebratory, all those sorts of good things.
For scientists, the event will bring out astrophysicists and astronomers to study the outermost layer of the sun's atmosphere called the corona.
So we'll have some telescopes here taking data during the eclipse and other parts of North America at the same time to help build up some of the picture of understanding of the corona.
Hilding Nielsen has been working with the town of Gander on a possible celebration.
My role is to help organize some of the science events and to help lead the eclipse viewing party. Our hope is that, because the eclipse is on the Monday, that the weekend before we'll have some talks, we'll have some demonstrations, some events for children, some events for adults, just a type of science and astronomy, and bring people together in Gander as a whole.
The weather, of course, will be impossible to predict, and April 8th, 2024 could be in the middle of a snowstorm. That experience, we're told, will be different, but of course it'll still occur. And if you're holding out for better weather, you can always wait until August 12th, 2026, when there will be a total solar eclipse over Greenland, Iceland, and Spain. Troy Turner, CBC News, Gander.
Well, a conservation officer in Hopedale got a surprise while on patrol, a very rare sight in Labrador waters. Ian Winters spotted this leatherback turtle about 35 kilometers outside of Hopedale. Northwest Atlantic turtles nest around Florida and the West African coastline. It's not unheard of to find those turtles near Labrador. One was found as far north as Nain in the 1970s, but Winters says this is the first sighting near Hopedale. He says the turtle looked healthy and was moving at a steady pace. Well, it was a colorful weekend in the communities of Bay de Verde, Greats Cove and Redhead Cove. The 5th annual Festival of Quilts showcased some of the area's best and most creative crafters. Churches in the towns were turned into galleries with quilts covering the wooden pews. Quilt admirers had a chance to view and buy the traditional blankets. Members of the quilting guilds from other parts of the province brought their handiwork for display too. The towns say the festival is becoming more and more popular and drawing tourists, drawing locals as well as tourists from outside the province to the area.
This year, again, the energy and the excitement has just grown around this little festival that we hope will become a big festival. It's a sharing our culture mentality. We just wanted it to be something that was against this beautiful backdrop of Outport, Newfoundland, and it was just such a natural fit. Quilts are, stitched with love and made with love. They're not the type of purchase that you make that you dispose of. They're something that you hold on to and you pass on to your children and your grandchildren.
Well, we've got a cold front moving through that is bringing some showers and then even more rain as we head through tomorrow for parts of the province. I'll break the full forecast down for you coming up.
Bit of humidity on the go today, Ashley. We've had some cooler weather, and then suddenly today the warm humidity came back.
It did, yeah. Well, on the weekend, quite warm, though, for parts of Labrador, seeing temperatures well into the 20s, the upper 20s, parts of the island as well. We've cooled down a little bit today, down to 21 degrees in Cartwright, 21 in Marys Harbour. Pretty similar towards the west coast through central, tad warmer than that, topped out at 22 degrees this afternoon in St. John's. You factor in that humidity, feeling more like the mid-20s today. Well, right now, anyway, feels more like 25 in St. John's, 26 in Bonavista. And as you head towards the west coast, those temperatures are starting to drop a little bit down to 17 in Corner Brook. Humidity not quite as present, and that's because the cold front is sweeping through. And you can see some of that drop in temperatures up across Labrador as well, 18 degrees in Cartwright. So here's the cold front here. That is going to continue to sweep further east as we head through to tonight. That is going to bring some showers right along with it. Already seeing some of these heavier showers move further east. They should taper off as we head through tonight and then redevelop again tomorrow. But if I zoom out, we haven't talked a whole lot about hurricanes because there hasn't really been much activity, but it seems that over the weekend, quite a few areas. So we've got 5 areas that the Hurricane Center are currently watching. Area of low pressure on the far right of your screen will eventually develop, likely in the next 5 days. There's a 70% chance of that happening. But the one area of low pressure, or the one area of tropical storm that I'm watching at the moment, is Tropical Storm Franklin. Now, just taking a look at the forecast over the next couple of days, showing that turning north, and this is one that we will have to watch as we head through the next couple of days as it continues its turn north. Now, obviously, still very early, but in the 7 to 10 day time frame, we're going to have to keep an eye on that one, which could bring some impacts to parts of Atlantic Canada. But again, 7 to 10 days, still lots of time to figure that out, and I will certainly keep you in the loop there. There's that turn that I was talking about, and that's in the Saturday time frame. So it does have this turning into a hurricane. But for the time being, we just have those showers that are working their way further east. Here's a closer picture there. Some of the heavier showers moving towards the Bonavista Peninsula at the moment. Now, the forecast model is not doing a great job on the intensity of these showers. As you can see, they're not showing much, but we'll likely see them continue through the night tonight, tapering off eventually. And then as we get into the early morning hours, we'll see another round of showers move in, mainly for eastern Newfoundland at this point. Temperatures tonight, 12 to 17 degrees, warmest temperatures further east with those winds out of the southwest between 20 to 40 kilometers per hour. But we will see that drop in temperatures thanks to that cold front. Up across Labrador, 10 to 12 degrees, coolest in the west, where your daytime, or your overnight lows, I should say, will hover around 6 degrees overnight tonight. Now tomorrow, here's those showers again. Even though it's not handling the system today very well, but it does look like we'll see periods of rain for most of the Avalon and the Burin Peninsula tomorrow as we head into the afternoon. Later in the afternoon and early into the evening, it looks like some of those showers, heavier, will spread towards central areas of the island and continue through the night. Now, up across Labrador, there's not a whole lot to talk about tonight. You're still looking at, or tomorrow, I should say, still looking at that chance of showers into the afternoon, with some sunny breaks in the mix as well. How much rain are we talking about? Well, at this point, looking at a good chance of seeing 10 to 20 millimeters for most of eastern Newfoundland. Some pockets of heavier rain, though, between 20 to 30 millimeters, even 30 to 50 is not out of the question either. Your temperatures tomorrow will be quite a bit cooler than today, so between 18 and 19 degrees. Again, much drier on the west coast thanks to that cold front. Labrador, you're looking at your temperatures towards the teens, but upper teens for the southeast. So let's look at your forecast. We'll look ahead when I come back.
Thanks, Ashley. Well, the pressure is on the provincial government to introduce more civilian oversight into policing. Earlier in the show, we told you about the opposition's call for action. A St. John's lawyer is also speaking out. Lynn Moore shared her call for change at a national conference last week. Here's some of what she said.
Structure, as it's set up under the legislation, involves an inherent conflict of interest for the chief of police. So for public and internal complaints, it is the chief who reviews an investigation and decides whether or not charges are warranted. You can imagine if you're an officer and you have learned that the chief has decided that your case merits a charge, and now you're going to go before the chief and argue that you're not guilty, you can imagine the confidence that you have that your charge is going to be considered by a dispassionate and independent observer. You have no confidence. Likewise, if you are the member of the public who makes a complaint, you are going into a room where there is a chief represented by counsel, there is the officer represented by counsel, there is this Byzantine series of rules and regulations, and you are on your own, unless you happen to be one of the 1% who can afford $40,000 to pay a lawyer to represent you at a hearing. I'm sure everybody is aware police officers have a great deal of authority, responsibility, and power, and with that power comes a necessary accounting to the public. Secret trials should not exist in a democracy. Internal hearings where police officers' discipline is at stake. The media has no way, the public has no way to know that these hearings are going on. And they have no right to get any details of those investigations. It is a very serious infringement on our rights as citizens to know about the people who are supposedly protecting and serving our communities. We recently, within the past 4 or 5 years, had the Serious Incident Response Team CERT, we call them, they created legislation, they hired an independent investigator for serious crimes only. And so it has to be a crime. And if you are a member of the public who was downtown drinking and you took a ride home by a police officer because you felt that you were safe with a police officer, and then that officer raped you, and you know that because of your level of intoxication that you can't say who that officer is, you can't identify them, you've never seen them before, you were looking at the back of your head for most of the ride, and you had your eyes closed while you were being raped, well, CERT's not interested in that because, well, they might be interested in it, but they're not going to be able to charge because you have no idea who the officer is. And if you are a traumatized individual who does not report immediately, as most sexual assault complainants do not report immediately, if you report a year later, there's very little chance that anyone is going to be able to say who it was. So CERT doesn't look at that. And even if you are doing this repeatedly to a number of women, CERT is not looking at that because they can't lay a charge, and they are not interested in police discipline. So that officer then has the opportunity to go to several other women and sexually assault them in the downtown. So we are in a desperate state of a lack of accountability in this province, and we desperately need independent oversight and accountability. And those are mine.
A shortage of social workers in the province. Nearly 100 positions are now vacant.
They have difficulty when they have their normal caseload. So now with these vacancies, they have grave concerns.
Coming up, NAIT President Jerry Earle will tell us what this means for workloads.
Because of the vacancies.
Well, there's a big shortage of social workers in the province. According to documents released through an access to information request, the Department of Children, Seniors and Social Development, which deals with child protection, has 99 vacant social work positions. A quarter of those empty positions are in St. John's, but almost every part of the province is short. Corner Brook and Happy Valley Goose Bay also have a substantial number of vacancies. All of this raises concerns for the union representing social workers. I spoke with the head of NAPE this afternoon.
Concerns I have in listening to our frontline social workers is not being able to do what they're trained to do. They're professionals in their communities across Newfoundland and Labrador that make interventions that make a difference in a lot of people's lives. So what I'm hearing from social workers is they have difficulty when they have their normal caseload. So now with these vacancies, they have grave concerns of the impact or the inability to be able to do their work on a daily basis.
What could this mean for their caseloads?
For the caseloads, like there was a recent review done that suggested the caseload of a social worker is around 20 cases. That may not sound like a lot to many, but when you look in a week, a 37.5-hour week, that's only giving a person about on average of 2 hours. In some cases now they're seeing tripling of their workloads. I've heard of horrendous workloads sometimes where it's almost quadrupled. So you can imagine the impact and inability to do this valued work they do in our communities. They're dealing with very vulnerable populations that require much more than a couple of hours per week. So the social workers themselves are quite stressed over their inability, and it's causing an impact now and being able to bring other social workers into this much needed field.
And there's the issue with the workload, but how does that translate into the level of care that they're able to bring to those vulnerable people?
It directly impacts the level of care that they can bring to these vulnerable populations, individuals. It can make a significant difference in certain outcomes. And then the social workers themselves are extremely stressed over that, knowing that decisions they can make or may not be able to make because of the workload could have a negative impact on somebody's life.
So what needs to happen here, do you think? There's about 100 vacant positions. How are those positions, how can they be filled?
There's a number of things that happen, and I hate to say we told you so years ago. And in fairness, we've been trying to work collaboratively with government. We've had a working group of social workers, and we wish they had listened 12 months ago, 24 months ago, without having to wait on a consultant, which delayed the process. So there's a number of things they have to do. First of all, there were some initiatives trying to increase the number of seats at the university or to graduate more, trying to keep social workers that we have, because we can't afford to lose. So since 2020 to now, the vacancies have more than doubled. So that's telling us more needs to be done. So first of all, just outright listen to the professionals themselves. They know what's best, know what needs to be done. And we put a working group in place that was working collaboratively with government. We just wish they would listen to some of the advice. And something comes down to simply recognizing the value that these social workers bring to their profession, which we hear loud and clear. They're just not valued. They're just not respected for what they do. And again, this is demonstrated where they haven't been listened to now for 2 years when they brought forward suggestions. Because we often hear, well, they never bring forward suggestions. They repeatedly have, but they just haven't been listened to.
How did we get to this place where there are 100 vacancies? Is it were people leaving the profession, or are we just not enough people entering the profession?
Part of it is some not entering the profession, and then because of the vacancies, and there's a vicious cycle, because of the vacancies and the workload that was dumped on these social workers, others said, I just can't manage this. I can't imagine if there's a negative outcome, the impact it would have on me. I've heard from social workers too that are prepared to go back. Just today on a post that NAPE had put up, the social workers actually commented, I'm prepared to go back if issues are addressed that we're bringing forward, but they feel they're not being addressed. And I think some of that is the change over on the government side. I think I made to one of your colleagues just over the weekend. Just since we started dealing with this file in, I believe, 2020, we've had 4 different ministers. So once you have a conversation with minister and start to make decisions, that minister's moved out and another one's in, and it's just a revolving wheel in some of these departments where it's critical to have that stability to deal with the issues. And the social workers themselves, like I said, every social worker I hear from, they outright say as challenging as the work is, they love the work, but they need the support and they need the resources, and they don't believe they're getting that attention.
What is your message to the current minister?
The current minister, which happens to be new again, we have requested a meeting, and graciously he has agreed, so we're going to be meeting short while. My first message is we're now in a crisis. We weren't so bad a couple of years ago. We are now in a crisis, and we have to address this issue immediately. We have to figure out how to keep the social workers we have. We can't have one more vacancy created. And then we have to figure out how to stabilize the system and then fill these vacancies as quickly as possible. And the first thing is, though, keeping what we have. And funny thing, I've said that in a number of professions. We have to maintain right now because we have to retain and then recruit. So recognize the value what the social workers bring to the table.
Jerry Earl, thank you so much for this.
Thank you for the opportunity.
The remnants of Tropical Storm Hilary are expected to blow into British Columbia in the coming days. The BC Wildfire Service says winds could cause more problems for crews that are already battling hundreds of fires. The storm has been battering northern Mexico and the southwestern United States. Parts of Southern California received a year's worth of rain in just 24 hours. Up to 250 millimeters fell in some areas. It's the most severe weather to hit the area in more than 80 years. Flash flooding caused landslides and washed out roads, leaving people stranded in several communities in the Coachella Valley. The storm continues to move north. More than 17 million people are under flooding and high wind advisories, watches and warnings stretching from the Mexico border to northern Idaho. And a change in tactics today for firefighters near Yellowknife. Since last week, they've been trying to stop the fires from spreading. Today, they started extinguishing the flames along the front lines. The CBC's Sam Sampson has the latest on the fires in the Northwest Territories and the thousands who fled after an evacuation order.
Overnight rainfall on Sunday significantly helped the firefighting effort, so much so that the plan of attack has now changed. So almost 5 millimeters of rain fell on the fire that is threatening Yellowknife. In that city alone, the city recorded up to 10 millimeters in some areas. So that plus the winds are helping. They shifted several times on Monday, but forecasters hoped that the winds actually push the fire west, which will make the fire reaching the city pretty unlikely. All of that is helping change the plan of attack. So now, rather than just trying to make sure that the fire doesn't get to Yellowknife, fire officials say that they're looking at trying to extinguish that fire that is more than 167,000 hectares. We're talking more than 40 kilometers of hot wildfire. Now that change is something that is good news for those evacuees that are spread out across the West. More than 19,000 people were forced from their homes because of all these fires in the Northwest Territories. Some are in Vancouver, in Winnipeg. In Calgary alone, almost 2,500 people are in that city, and thousands are in Edmonton.
As can be expected, it's quite a lot of people. I mean, Yellowknife is, 20,000. Hay River is 3,000 to 4,000 people. Plus you have Fort Smith as well. So as you can imagine, it's a lot of people to take care of, and they're doing the best they can with the resources that they have.
As for when these thousands of evacuees can come back, that is still very much unknown. The mayor of Yellowknife and other school divisions in that city say it's very unlikely that students will be going back to school on their original start date, August 28th, just a week from Monday. And so because of all of that and this still unsafe situation, the mayor of Yellowknife says it is too soon to tell when people can come back to their homes.
To date, the fire is still a threat, and we don't have a date for when folks can come back.
Though the fire evacuation deadline was Friday at noon, Yellowknife Mayor Rebecca Alty is still urging people who can leave to do so. She says there are about 1,600 people still in Yellowknife alone, about 1,000 essential workers, but she says the capacity in case there are emergencies or something like that is very, very low. So if you are someone in Yellowknife or the Northwest Territories who has the option to leave and has been ordered to evacuate, she says now is the time to go, because even though there are these favorable weather conditions, the situation is still unsafe. Sam Sampson, CBC News, Regina.
This is Captain Hook, has to be. I have the eye patch there, parrot on my shoulder. Yeah, that was Captain Hook, I'll take that one. This is one that I've been referred to before. It's Alex Bright Hook.
Bit of social media silliness there. Montreal Canadiens having some fun with new team member Alex Newhook, getting him to guess the names of his famous relatives. The center iceman from St. John's should be making his Canadiens debut in their preseason opening on September 25th. A lot of Habs fans in this province especially excited to cheer him on. right, time for a look at the long range. But first, lots of people enjoyed the concert in St. John's on the weekend in Churchill Park with Alanis Morissette. And you were there on Friday night, right?
The weather was perfect Friday night. It was even a bit cool, which was nice, but not surrounded by all those people. It was very warm.
Yeah, a lot of people there, I bet.
Oh, yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was actually really lovely. But then Saturday, obviously, raining a little bit. It's okay. It still didn't damper any spirits, I see.
No, I'm sure. Yeah, I'm sure everyone had their rubber boots on and whatnot.
Right.
Yeah. Okay, so looking at the long range, some more rain.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, tomorrow certainly looks wet for a good chunk of eastern Newfoundland, and then that's going to continue as we head into Wednesday morning as well. We are looking at a bit of unsettled weather through most of this week. Let's take a look at what's going to happen. Future tracker showing that shower activity, like I said, for the Avalon anyway. By the time we get into Wednesday morning, still tapering to showers, a little bit of northerly flow. So that does mean some cooler temperatures, especially considering what we have been seeing for the past couple of days. So expect skies to stay generally cloudy for those of you along the northeast coast. And then Labrador, especially towards the west, you're still looking at that chance of showers. Really unsettled across the big land through the day on Wednesday. And then again for the northern peninsula. Now the southern half of the island looking pretty nice. Lots of sunshine in the mix. And we should actually see some of the temperatures a little bit warmer as well. So 18, 19 degrees through the day. That northerly flow keeping temperatures on the Avalon much cooler, only about 14 degrees through the day on Wednesday. Along the coast of Labrador as well. Between 14 and 16 through the afternoon. Happy Valley Goose Bay should reach a high near 19 degrees. And again, unsettled weather. You're still going to see the chance of showers, the chance of seeing some sunshine through the day as well. It won't be totally gray, but it will be unsettled. As we head into Wednesday evening and into Thursday, area of low pressure still generally sticking around, fairly weak. But still looking at that chance of showers up across Labrador. This will head towards the west coast of the island through Thursday as well. Likely spreading further east through the afternoon. This will likely stay cloudy, but you'll still see that chance of showers as the day goes on as we sit under that weak area of low pressure. As far as temperatures are concerned, starting to warm up just a tad. Well, pretty much similar. So 17 to 20 degrees really. You're going to stay cool for eastern Newfoundland, 15 degrees through the day. That is well below where we should be sitting this time of year. And pretty much status quo up across Labrador as well. 13 to 14 towards the coast and about 16 degrees in Happy Valley Goose Bay. And again, still looking at that chance of some sunshine, but showers will linger as well. The rest of the week, we get towards the weekend, it does look like things will dry out. Between 18 and 19 degrees for your Friday and Saturday at this point. And your temperatures for central Newfoundland should get back up into the 20s, the low 20s. But the end of the week really looking fairly nice for central Newfoundland. For western Newfoundland, same thing, warming by the time we get into Saturday, where your temperatures will hover between 18 to 22 degrees and overnight lows around 12 or 13. Now for eastern Labrador, showers for your Thursday again. Friday looking pretty nice, 21 degrees and some sunshine, but that rain will move back in as we head into Saturday, and a bit of a drop in the temperatures as well. Not really moving too much in western Labrador. Your temperatures will be in the mid-teens with rain on Friday, but clearing as we get into Saturday. Speaking of rain, isn't that a cool shot? That is cloud cover. But I've seen this once or twice before. Optical illusion there. Well, it isn't an optical illusion. It's like a rainbow that looks like it's sitting on the ground there, but pretty cool in Shoal Harbor. Bonnie was out picking some blueberries and captured that great shot. So thank you so much for that. And if you have any photos that you would like to share with us, I'm sure you've got lots out there. You can send them to my Facebook page, but the best place is to email them at nlphotos@cbc.ca.
Oh, very cool shot, Bonnie. Love that. And yeah, it's definitely foraging season. We're into lots of people out picking blueberries, and you got yourself some chanterelles.
Yep. Some yummy pasta on the weekend.
Nice. I got some chanterelles last week, so lots to get out there. And
can't wait for the blueberries.
Yes. All right, well, that is it for us on this Monday evening. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good night.